Maya Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she rushed between tables at the Golden Oak restaurant. The clock on the wall showed 9:30 p.m., and her shift had started at 11 a.m. that morning. Her feet hurt in the cheap black shoes she wore, but she could not afford better ones. Every dollar she earned went to something more important. The restaurant was fancy. Rich people came here to eat expensive food and drink wine that cost more than Maya made in a week. The walls had gold paint, and crystal lights hung from the ceiling. Real flowers sat on every table. Maya had worked here for 3 years, but she still felt out of place among all the fancy things. She carried a heavy tray of dirty dishes to the kitchen. The chef yelled at the other workers in Spanish, but Maya kept her head down. She had learned not to get involved in kitchen drama. She had more important things to worry about. Maya, table 12 needs their check, called Jessica, another waitress. Jessica was only 19 and complained about everything. She did not understand why Maya worked so hard or why she never took breaks. Maya nodded and grabbed the check from the computer. Table 12 had ordered the most expensive items on the menu. Their bill was over $400. Maya hoped they would leave a good tip. She needed every penny she could get. As she walked to the table, Maya thought about her brother Carlos. He was only 16, but he had been sick for 2 years. The doctor said he needed special medicine that cost thousands of dollars every month. Their insurance paid for some of it, but not enough. Maya worked 2 jobs to pay for what was left. "Here is your check, sir," Maya said politely to the man at table 12. He barely looked at her. Rich people were like that. They treated waiters and waitresses like they were invisible. The man paid with a credit card and left a $20 tip on a $400 bill. Maya tried not to show her disappointment. She had hoped for more, but she was used to small tips from wealthy customers. After the table left, Maya cleaned up their mess. She found crumbs on the floor and wine stains on the white tablecloth. It would take her 10 minutes to make the table perfect again for the next customers. While she worked, Maya heard the piano music coming from the main dining room. The restaurant had a beautiful black piano in the corner. A professional player came in 3 nights a week to entertain the guests. Maya always stopped to listen when she could. The music made her remember things she tried to forget. 6 years ago, she had been a music student at the state university. She had a full scholarship to study piano. Her teachers said she was gifted. They said she could play in concert halls one day. But everything changed when her parents died in a car accident. Maya had to quit school to take care of Carlos. He was only 10 then, and he had no one else. The scholarship was gone. Her dreams of being a professional pianist were gone too. Sometimes when the restaurant was closed, Maya would sit at the piano and play. She told herself she was just remembering old songs, but the truth was deeper. The music was still part of her. It lived in her fingers and her heart. She could not let it go completely. "Maya, you have a new table," Jessica called out. "It's that rich guy who comes in sometimes, the one who thinks he owns the world." Maya looked toward the private dining room. Marcus Thornfield sat at the big round table with several other people. Maya knew who he was. Everyone in the city knew Marcus Thornfield. He owned 3 tech companies and was worth millions of dollars. He was also known for being mean to people who worked for him. Maya had served Marcus before. He was rude and demanding. He complained about everything and never left good tips. He seemed to enjoy making people feel small and unimportant. Tonight, Marcus was having a birthday party. 8 other rich people sat around the table with him. They wore expensive clothes and jewelry that sparkled under the lights. Maya could hear them laughing loudly and talking about their vacations and new cars. She took a deep breath and walked to their table. "Good evening," she said with a smile. "Welcome to Golden Oak. Can I start you with drinks?" Marcus looked at her like she was bothering him. "Finally," he said in a loud voice, "we've been waiting forever. Don't you people know how to do your jobs?" Maya felt her face get hot, but she kept smiling. "I apologize for any wait, sir. What can I get for you?" The group ordered expensive wine and cocktails. Maya wrote everything down carefully. She could not afford to make mistakes with customers like these. One complaint to her manager could cost her the job. As she walked to the bar to place their drink order, Maya heard Marcus talking about her. "Look at her cheap shoes," he said to his friends. "These people have no class. They should be grateful we even come to places like this." His friends laughed. Maya felt tears start to form in her eyes, but she blinked them away. She had heard worse things before. She had learned to ignore mean comments from rich customers. The bartender, an older man named Frank, saw her upset face. "Don't let them get to you, kid," he said quietly. "People like that aren't worth your time." Maya nodded, but she could not shake off the hurt feelings. She thought about Carlos at home, probably doing homework at their small kitchen table. He needed his medicine. That was more important than her hurt feelings. She brought the drinks to Marcus's table and took their food orders. Everything they wanted was expensive. They ordered steaks that cost $60 each and appetizers that cost more than Maya made in a day. While they ate, Maya served other tables and tried to stay busy, but she could hear Marcus's loud voice from across the room. He was telling stories about firing people from his companies. He seemed to think it was funny to ruin people's lives. The night was busy, and Maya's feet hurt more with each step. She had been working for over 10 hours, but she could not slow down. The restaurant was full and every table needed attention. At 11 p.m., Maya finally got a short break. She went outside behind the restaurant and sat on an old wooden crate. The cool night air felt good on her face. She pulled out her phone and texted Carlos to make sure he was okay. "Doing homework," he texted back. "Don't work too late." Maya smiled. Carlos was a good kid. He never complained about their situation, even though he knew they had no money for things other kids had. He studied hard and got good grades. Maya wanted to give him a better life. She went back inside and checked on Marcus's table. They were drinking more wine and getting louder. Maya could tell this was going to be a long night. Rich people like Marcus often stayed until the restaurant closed, making noise and demanding attention, but Maya needed this job. The tips from one busy night could pay for Carlos's medicine for several days. She would put up with whatever she had to put up with. She did not know that tonight would be different. She did not know that Marcus had noticed the piano in the corner and was forming a cruel plan. She did not know that her hidden talent was about to change everything. For now, she just wiped down tables and refilled water glasses, counting the hours until she could go home to her brother. Marcus Thornfield raised his wine glass high in the air. His face was red from drinking and his voice was getting louder. The other people at his table laughed at everything he said, even when it was not funny. They wanted to stay on his good side because he was rich and powerful. "This is the best birthday ever," Marcus announced to his friends. "Good food, great wine, and excellent company." He looked around the private dining room with satisfaction. Everything was perfect for his 35th birthday celebration. Maya was clearing empty plates from their table when Marcus suddenly grabbed her arm. His grip was firm and uncomfortable. "Wait a minute," he said, his words slightly slurred from the wine. "Don't go anywhere yet." Maya felt nervous but tried to stay professional. "Is there something else you need, sir?" she asked politely. She wanted to pull her arm away, but she did not want to make him angry. Marcus pointed toward the corner of the room where a beautiful black piano sat under a spotlight. "See that piano over there? It's just sitting there, not being used. That seems like a waste, don't you think?" The other people at the table turned to look at the piano. Maya was confused about what Marcus wanted. The regular piano player had finished his set hours ago and gone home. "I have an idea," Marcus said with a mean smile. "Our waitress here should entertain us. Play us some music while we finish our drinks." He looked at Maya like she was a toy for his amusement. Maya felt her stomach drop. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm just a waitress. I don't play piano professionally. Maybe I could ask the manager to call our regular pianist?" Marcus laughed loudly. "Nonsense, I'm sure you know how to play something. All you people learn music in school, right?" His comment was rude and showed how little he thought of working people. The woman sitting next to Marcus, who wore diamonds on every finger, giggled. "Oh, Marcus, you're so creative. This should be interesting." Her voice was full of mockery. Maya felt her face get hot with embarrassment. She looked around the room for help. but the other restaurant staff were busy with their own work. "Sir, I really think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not a piano player, I just serve food." But Marcus was not listening. He had an idea for entertainment, and he was used to getting what he wanted. "Come on, don't be shy, just play something simple. Happy birthday would be perfect. It is my birthday after all." The other rich people at the table started encouraging the idea. They thought it would be funny to watch a waitress try to play piano. Some of them pulled out their phones ready to record whatever happened. "This is going to be hilarious," said a man with gray hair and an expensive suit. "I bet she doesn't even know where middle C is on the keyboard." "Maybe we should start a betting pool," suggested another woman. "How many wrong notes will she hit in the first minute?" Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes. These people were treating her like she was not even human. They wanted to laugh at her and make her feel stupid for their entertainment. "I really can't," Maya said quietly. "I have other tables to serve, and my manager expects me to focus on my work." Marcus's expression changed from amused to angry. His birthday celebration was not going the way he wanted, and he did not like being told no by someone he considered beneath him. "Listen here," Marcus said in a cold voice. "I'm a very important customer at this restaurant. I spend thousands of dollars here every month. If you don't do this simple thing for me, I'll talk to your manager about your attitude problem." Maya felt trapped. She knew Marcus had the power to get her fired. Rich customers like him could complain to management and make up stories about bad service. The restaurant would always take the side of a wealthy customer over a waitress. And Marcus continued with a cruel smile, "I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of service this place provides. Bad reviews can really hurt a business, can't they?" The threat was clear. If Maya did not play piano for his amusement, Marcus would try to ruin her reputation and possibly her job. She thought about Carlos at home, waiting for her to come back, with tips from tonight's work. She thought about the medicine bills that kept coming every month. "Please, sir," Maya tried one more time. "I really don't think this is a good idea. What if I play badly? That would ruin your birthday celebration." Marcus laughed again, but it was not a kind laugh. "That's exactly what will make it entertaining. We don't expect you to be good, we just want to see you try." The other people at the table were getting excited about the show. They moved their chairs to get a better view of the piano. Someone ordered another bottle of wine to enjoy during the performance. "Come on, sweetie," said the woman with diamonds. "It will be fun. We promise not to judge you too harshly." But her tone made it clear that judging was exactly what they planned to do. Maya looked around the room one more time, hoping for an escape. But there was none. The other restaurant staff were too far away to help, and even if they came over, they could not stand up to Marcus Thornfield. He had too much money and influence. She thought about walking away and quitting her job right there. But then she remembered Carlos's face when the doctor explained how much his medicine would cost. She remembered the stack of medical bills on their kitchen table at home. "Okay," Maya said quietly. "I'll try to play something simple." Marcus clapped his hands together with delight. "Excellent. This is going to be the best birthday gift ever." The rich people at the table started talking among themselves, making plans for how they would share videos of Maya's performance on social media. They were already laughing about how funny it would be. Maya walked slowly toward the piano, her legs feeling weak. Each step felt like a walk toward her own humiliation. The beautiful black piano that had always been a source of comfort for her now looked like an instrument of torture. She could hear Marcus and his friends talking behind her. "I bet she hits more wrong notes than right ones," someone said. "This is going to be painful to listen to," said another. Maya sat down on the piano bench and looked at the keys. They were the same keys she had played secretly after work, when the restaurant was empty and quiet. The same keys that had helped her remember her dreams and her parents' love for music. But now those keys represented something different. They were about to become tools for rich people to use in making fun of her. Maya felt like crying, but she knew that would only make things worse. She placed her hands on the keyboard and took a deep breath. Behind her, she could hear phones being turned on to record. She could hear quiet laughter and whispered comments about what was about to happen. Marcus called out from his table. Remember, we want happy birthday, and don't be afraid to put some feeling into it. More laughter came from his friends. Maya closed her eyes for a moment and tried to calm her racing heart. She thought about Carlos and the medicine he needed. She thought about the rent that was due next week and the groceries they needed to buy. This was not about music anymore. This was about survival. Maya opened her eyes and prepared to play, not knowing that her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Maya sat at the piano bench feeling like she was in a nightmare. Behind her, Marcus and his wealthy friends were arranging themselves for the best view of what they expected to be her embarrassing performance. They moved their chairs closer to the piano and held up their phones, ready to record every mistake she might make. Everyone ready? Marcus called out like he was directing a movie. This is going to be social media gold. My followers will love this. The woman with diamonds adjusted her position to get the perfect angle for filming. I can't wait to share this with the girls at the country club. They won't believe what we saw tonight. Maya's hands were shaking as she placed them above the piano keys. She could feel 8 pairs of eyes watching her every move. The expensive perfumes and colognes that the rich people wore seemed to fill the air around her, making it hard to breathe. Come on, waitress, called out a man with a thick gold watch. We don't have all night. Some of us have early meetings tomorrow. Yeah, agreed another woman. Play something already. The suspense is killing us. She laughed at her own joke, and the others joined in. Maya tried to block out their voices and focus on the piano. But she could hear every cruel comment they made. They were not even trying to whisper anymore. They wanted her to hear how little they thought of her. I bet she can't even read music, said the gray-haired man. These working-class people never get proper education in the arts. Maybe she learned to play in some church basement, suggested another guest. You know how they do things in those neighborhoods. Marcus was enjoying himself more than anyone. This was exactly the kind of entertainment he loved. He liked having power over other people and making them do things that made them uncomfortable. Don't forget to smile while you play, Marcus told Maya. This is supposed to be fun, remember? It's my birthday party. Maya felt sick to her stomach. She wanted to run away from the piano and never come back to this restaurant. But she could not afford to lose this job. Carlos needed his medicine, and she was the only one who could pay for it. She looked down at the piano keys and tried to remember the simple version of Happy Birthday that she could play without making too many mistakes. But her mind was blank. The stress and humiliation were making it hard to think clearly. What's taking so long? Asked the woman with diamonds. Maybe she really doesn't know how to play. This is even better than I hoped, Marcus said with a mean grin. She's so nervous she can't even start. This is priceless. The other guests were getting impatient. They had come here for entertainment, and they wanted their show to begin. Some of them started tapping their feet and making impatient sounds. Just hit some keys, called out one man. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not expecting Carnegie Hall here. The comment about Carnegie Hall hit Maya like a physical blow. 6 years ago, her piano teacher had told her she had the talent to play at Carnegie Hall someday. Those dreams felt like they belonged to a different person now. Maya finally pressed down on a few keys to play the opening notes of Happy Birthday. But her hands were shaking so badly that the notes came out uneven and weak. The sound echoed in the private dining room like a cry for help. Oh, this is worse than I imagined, laughed the gray-haired man. She's terrible. Wait, Marcus said, holding up his hand. Let her finish. I want to get the whole thing on video. Maya tried to continue playing, but the laughter and comments from behind her made it impossible to concentrate. She hit several wrong notes in a row, and the simple song sounded awful. Stop, called out one of the women. This is painful to listen to. Maybe we should put her out of her misery. But Marcus was not ready to let Maya off the hook yet. He was having too much fun watching her suffer. No, let her keep going. This is the best entertainment I've had in months. Maya's face was burning with shame. She could feel tears starting to form in her eyes, but she tried to hold them back. Crying would only make things worse and give these cruel people even more to laugh about. Look, she's about to cry, noticed the woman with diamonds. How adorable. She takes this so seriously. Maybe we should give her some tips. suggested another guest. You know, for improvement. Though I'm not sure where she would even start. Maya stopped playing and put her hands in her lap. She could not continue with this torture. The humiliation was too much to bear, even for Carlos's sake. I'm sorry, she said quietly without turning around. I told you I'm not a piano player. Maybe you could just enjoy your drinks without music. Marcus was not satisfied with this ending. He had expected more entertainment and he felt cheated that Maya was giving up so quickly. Oh no, you don't get to quit that easily, Marcus said in a demanding voice. You agreed to play for us, and I want to hear a complete song. This is my birthday party and the customer is always right. Marcus is right, agreed one of his friends. We were promised a performance, and we want our money's worth. Maya felt trapped between the piano and the cruel audience behind her. She had never felt so alone and helpless in her life. These people had more money in their bank accounts than she would ever see, but they were using their wealth to make her feel worthless. Please, Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. I really can't do this. I'm not good enough to play for people like you. People like us? Marcus repeated with fake surprise. What's that supposed to mean? We're just music lovers who want to hear a simple song. The other guests laughed at his performance. They all knew exactly what kind of people they were, and they enjoyed using their power to make others feel small. Just play one complete song, Marcus insisted. Then you can go back to wiping tables and taking orders. Surely that's not too much to ask. Maya realized that these people would not let her leave until she gave them what they wanted. They would keep pushing and demanding until she completely broke down in front of them. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. She would play one simple song as badly as necessary to satisfy them, and then this nightmare would be over. She could go home to Carlos and try to forget this awful night. But as Maya placed her hands back on the piano keys, something inside her began to change. She thought about all the nights she had played this same piano after work, when the restaurant was empty and peaceful. She thought about the music that still lived in her heart, despite everything that had happened to her dreams. Maybe it was time to stop hiding who she really was. Maybe it was time to show these cruel people that they had made a big mistake about her. Maya's hands found their position on the keyboard, but this time they felt different. This time they felt ready to tell her real story. Maya closed her eyes and let her fingers rest on the piano keys. For a moment she forgot about Marcus and his cruel friends behind her. She forgot about their phones recording her and their mean laughter. She tried to remember what music felt, like before her world fell apart. The restaurant's private dining room became quiet for just a second. Maya could hear her own heartbeat and the soft sound of her breathing. Then very gently she began to play. Instead of the simple happy birthday that Marcus had demanded, Maya's fingers found the opening notes of Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It was a piece she had learned years ago in college, one that her professor said she played with unusual feeling for someone so young. The first notes floated through the air like whispers. They were soft and beautiful, nothing like the harsh sounds Maya had made when she was too nervous to think clearly. Her hands moved across the keys with a grace that surprised even her. Behind her, the laughter began to die down. Marcus and his friends had expected to hear more mistakes and wrong notes. Instead, they heard something they had not expected at all. They heard real music. Wait a minute, said the woman with diamonds, her voice confused. That doesn't sound like Happy Birthday. What, is she playing? Asked the gray-haired man. His mocking tone was starting to fade as he listened to the beautiful melody that filled the room. Maya continued playing, her confidence growing with each note. She had forgotten how good it felt to let music flow through her fingers. For years, she had only played quick songs late at night when no one could hear her. Now she was finally playing the music that lived in her heart. The Nocturne was a piece that required real skill. It had difficult parts where both hands had to work together perfectly. Maya had practiced it hundreds of times in college, and her fingers still remembered every note, every delicate touch that made the music come alive. She's actually playing something real, whispered one of Marcus's friends. The mockery in his voice was replaced by surprise. Marcus himself was starting to look uncomfortable. This was not going the way he had planned. He had wanted to see Maya, embarrass herself, but instead she was playing beautiful music that made him look foolish for doubting her. Lucky guess, Marcus said loudly, trying to regain control of the situation. Anyone can memorize one simple song. Let's see what happens when she tries to play something harder. But Maya was already moving into the more complex part of the nocturne. Her left hand played the deep, rich bass notes while her right hand danced across the higher keys with the main melody. The two parts wove together like a conversation between old friends. The room was becoming quieter and quieter as the wealthy guests realized something was happening that they had not expected. The waitress they had planned to laugh at was playing music that belonged in concert halls, not in cruel birthday party games. Maya felt the music taking over her body and mind. She had missed this feeling so much. When she played piano, she could express emotions that she could not put into words. She could tell stories about love and loss, hope and sadness, dreams that had been broken and dreams that still lived deep inside her heart. "This is impossible," muttered the woman with diamonds. She lowered her phone without realizing it too, caught up in the music to remember that she had planned to record Maya's failure. The nocturne reached its most beautiful section, where the melody climbed higher and higher, like a bird learning to fly. Maya's fingers moved with perfect precision, finding each note exactly where it needed to be. She played with the kind of feeling that could only come from someone who had lived through real pain and real loss. Marcus was no longer smiling. His birthday party was not going according to his plan. He had wanted entertainment at Maya's expense, but instead his guests were becoming genuinely interested in her music. Some of them had stopped talking completely and were just listening. "Where did a waitress learn to play like this?" asked one man quietly. He sounded confused and a little ashamed of how they had treated Maya earlier. Maya played the final section of the nocturne, where the melody became softer and more gentle, like someone saying goodbye after a beautiful visit. Each note was perfect, filled with the kind of emotion that comes from years of practice and natural talent. As the last notes faded away, the private dining room fell completely silent. Maya kept her hands on the keys for a moment, remembering how it felt to play real music for other people again. She had forgotten how much she missed performing, how much she missed sharing the beauty that lived inside her through music. Slowly, Maya turned around to face Marcus and his friends. Their expressions had changed completely. The cruel laughter was gone. The mocking smiles had disappeared. Instead, they looked surprised, confused, and maybe even a little embarrassed. "That was," started the gray-haired man, then stopped. He seemed to be searching for words. "Beautiful," finished the woman with diamonds. She sounded like she could not quite believe what she had just heard. Marcus was the only one who still looked angry. His birthday party entertainment had turned into something else entirely, and he did not like losing control of the situation. "Fine," Marcus said with a forced laugh. "So you know one classical piece. Big deal. Any music student could do that. Let's see you play something that actually requires real skill." Maya looked at Marcus calmly. For the first time all evening, she did not feel afraid of him. Music had reminded her of who she really was, of the talent that still lived inside her, despite everything she had been through. "What would you like me to play?" Maya asked. Her voice was steady and confident now. Marcus thought for a moment, trying to come up with something that would be impossible for a waitress to play well. He wanted to regain control of his party and put Maya back in her place. "Play Rachmaninoff," Marcus said with a mean smile. "Piano Concerto No. 2, that's real classical music. Let's see how you handle that." Several of his guests looked at each other with surprise. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 was one of the most difficult and beautiful pieces ever written for piano. It required years of advanced training to play well. Marcus was sure that Maya would have to admit defeat now. No waitress could possibly know such a complex piece of music. He would finally get his entertainment as she struggled and failed to play something far beyond her abilities. But Maya just smiled. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 was one of her favorite pieces. She had performed it in college for her senior recital. It was the piece that had convinced her professors that she had a real future as a professional pianist. "I'd be happy to play Rachmaninoff for you," Maya said calmly. Marcus's confident expression began to fade as Maya turned back to the piano. Something in her voice told him that he had just made another big mistake. Maya positioned her hands over the piano keys and took a deep breath. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2 was not just any piece of music. It was one of the most famous and challenging piano compositions ever written. Most people who tried to play it spent years preparing, and even then, many could not capture its full beauty and power. But Maya was not most people. This concerto had been the centerpiece of her senior recital at university. She had spent months perfecting every note, every subtle change in rhythm and emotion. Her professor had called her performance extraordinary and said it proved she had the talent to become a professional concert pianist. Maya's fingers found the opening chord. The concerto began with soft, mysterious notes that seemed to come from somewhere deep and far away. The melody was gentle at first, like someone telling a secret story about love and longing. Behind her, Marcus and his wealthy friends had gone completely quiet. They had expected Maya to admit that she could not play Rachmaninoff, or to struggle through a few notes and give up. Instead, they heard the opening of one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever created, played with the skill of someone who truly understood it. "This can't be happening," Marcus whispered to himself. His birthday party was supposed to be about him and his success. Now everyone was paying attention to his waitress instead of to him. As Maya continued playing, the music began to grow stronger and more passionate. Rachmaninoff had written this concerto to express deep emotions: love, loss, hope, and determination. Maya understood those feelings better than most people. Her own life had been full of the same struggles and dreams. The woman with diamonds slowly put her phone away. She had planned to record Maya's embarrassing performance, but this was not embarrassing at all. This was something special, something that deserved respect rather than mockery. Maya's left hand played the strong, steady bass notes that gave the concerto its foundation, while her right hand carried the soaring melody that could make people cry with its beauty. The two parts worked together perfectly, creating music that filled the entire room with emotion and power. "She's really playing it," said the gray-haired man in amazement. "This is the actual piece. She knows the whole thing." Maya moved into the concerto's first big climax, where the music becomes loud and triumphant. Her fingers flew across the keys with incredible speed and accuracy. Every note was exactly where it should be, played with the perfect amount of force and feeling. This was the part of the concerto that separated real pianists from people who just knew how to play piano. The technical requirements were enormous. Both hands had to work independently, playing different rhythms and melodies at the same time, while also creating the emotional impact that made the music meaningful. Maya played it flawlessly. Her years of practice and her natural talent combined to create something that was more than just correct notes. She was telling a story through music, sharing her own experiences of struggle and determination with everyone in the room. "How is this possible?" asked one of Marcus's guests. "Where did she learn to play like this?" Marcus looked angry and confused. He had been so sure that Maya would fail, so confident that he could humiliate her for his own entertainment. Instead, she was creating something beautiful that made him look small and cruel in comparison. Maya moved into the concerto's gentle middle section, where the music becomes soft and dreamy. This part required a completely different kind of skill: the ability to play very quietly while still maintaining the emotional intensity of the piece. It was like learning to whisper in a way that could still touch people's hearts. Her touch on the keys was so light and precise that the notes seemed to float through the air. The melody was heartbreakingly beautiful, full of longing and memories of better times. Maya thought about her parents as she played this section. They had loved music and had been so proud when she won her scholarship to study piano. The private dining room had become like a concert hall. Marcus's guests were no longer talking or laughing. They were listening with the kind of attention that great music deserves. Some of them had never heard Rachmaninoff's concerto played live before, and they were discovering how powerful music could be when performed by someone with real talent. "This is incredible," whispered the woman with diamonds. "She's playing like a professional." Maya built toward the concerto's final section, where all the emotions and musical themes come together in a powerful conclusion. This was the most difficult part to play, requiring enormous technical skill and the ability to maintain the music's emotional impact, even while playing very fast and complex passages. Her hands moved across the keyboard like they had minds of their own. Years of practice had made the difficult fingering automatic, allowing Maya to focus on the music's meaning rather than just the mechanics of playing the right notes. The concerto's climax was approaching, the moment when the music reaches its highest point of power and beauty. Maya played with complete confidence now, lost in the joy of making music again. She had forgotten about Marcus and his cruel games. She had forgotten about being a waitress who was supposed to know her place. Right now, she was just a musician, sharing something beautiful with the world. As the music grew louder and more triumphant, Maya felt like she was flying. Every note was perfect. Every phrase was filled with emotion. Every moment was exactly what Rachmaninoff had intended when he wrote this masterpiece over a century ago. The wealthy people behind her had stopped thinking of her as just a waitress. They were beginning to realize that they were in the presence of something special, real talent that had been hidden behind a uniform and an apron. Marcus watched his guests' faces and realized that his plan had completely backfired. Instead of humiliating Maya, he had given her a platform to show everyone how remarkable she was. His birthday party would be remembered, but not for the reasons he had wanted. Maya approached the concerto's final notes, the ones that would bring this incredible musical journey to its conclusion. She had never played better in her life. All her pain and struggle had somehow made the music more powerful, more real, more capable of touching people's hearts. The last chord rang out through the private dining room like a victory cry. Maya held her hands on the keys for a moment, letting the sound fade away naturally. When the final note disappeared into silence, she finally remembered where she was and what had just happened. She had just played one of the world's most difficult piano pieces perfectly in front of people who had expected her to embarrass herself. Her life would never be the same again. The silence in the private dining room was complete. For several seconds after Maya finished playing, no one moved or spoke. The beautiful music seemed to hang in the air like something magical that no one wanted to disturb. Maya sat at the piano bench with her hands still resting on the keys. She could hardly believe what had just happened. For the first time in 6 years, she had played a complete piece for an audience. The music had felt as natural as breathing, as if all the years of working as a waitress had been just a long pause in her real life. Then, from the back corner of the room, came the sound of slow, steady clapping. Maya turned around to see who was applauding. It was not Marcus or any of his wealthy friends. It was an older man who had been sitting quietly by himself at a small table near the wall. Maya had not noticed him before. He was probably in his 60s, with gray hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a simple dark suit and had been so quiet during the evening that Maya had forgotten he was there. The man stood up and continued clapping as he walked toward the piano. His applause was respectful and genuine, completely different from the cruel entertainment that Marcus and his friends had been expecting. "Bravo," the older man said in a clear, cultured voice. "That was absolutely magnificent. I have not heard Rachmaninoff's second played with such feeling and technical perfection in many years." Maya felt confused. Who was this man? And how did he know so much about classical music? Most restaurant customers did not use words like magnificent when talking about piano performances. Marcus and his friends were also staring at the older man. They seemed as surprised as Maya to hear someone speaking about the music with such knowledge and respect. "Excuse me," Marcus said rudely. "This is a private party. I don't think we've been introduced." The older man turned to Marcus with a polite smile. "Of course, how thoughtless of me. I am James Chen." He said his name simply, as if it should not mean anything special to anyone. But the name did mean something. The woman with diamonds gasped and nearly dropped her wine glass. The gray-haired man's mouth fell open in shock. Even Marcus looked surprised, though he was trying to hide it. Maya did not recognize the name, but she could tell from everyone's reactions that James Chen was someone important. She waited to see what would happen next. "You're the James Chen?" asked the woman with diamonds in an amazed voice. The conductor? I've seen you at Lincoln Center so many times. I can't believe you're here. Maya's heart began to beat faster. James Chen was a conductor? That meant he was someone who worked with professional musicians, someone who understood music at the highest level. I am indeed a conductor, James Chen said with a modest smile. I was invited here tonight by my friend David Harrison. He nodded toward one of Marcus's guests, a man who had been quiet during most of the evening. David Harrison looked embarrassed. James, I had no idea this was going to happen. We were just... Well, it started as a joke, but then... It became something quite extraordinary, James Chen finished. He looked directly at Maya with warm, intelligent eyes. Young lady, may I ask where you studied piano? Maya felt nervous again, but this time it was a different kind of nervousness. This man was clearly someone who knew about music, and he was asking about her background with genuine interest, not cruel curiosity. I studied at State University, Maya said quietly. But I had to quit 6 years ago to take care of my family. James Chen nodded thoughtfully. And who was your teacher? Professor Elizabeth Martinez, Maya replied. She wondered if the famous conductor would know her old teacher's name. James Chen's face lit up with recognition and pleasure. Elizabeth Martinez. She is a wonderful musician and teacher. We have worked together on several occasions. She has excellent judgment about talent. Maya felt a warm glow of pride. Professor Martinez had been like a second mother to her during her college years. It felt good to hear someone speak about her with such respect. Tell me, James Chen continued, how often do you play now? Do you still practice regularly? Maya felt embarrassed about the truth. I play here sometimes after the restaurant closes, when no one is around. I try to remember the pieces I used to know. Here? James Chen looked around the private dining room with new interest. You practice on this piano? Yes, sir. I know I'm not supposed to, but the music helps me remember better times. I always make sure everything is clean and perfect when I finish. James Chen walked over to the piano and examined it carefully. He pressed a few keys and listened to the sound they made. This is actually a very fine instrument, much better than I would have expected in a restaurant. You have been taking good care of it. Marcus was starting to look angry again. His birthday party had turned into a conversation about Maya's piano playing, and a famous conductor was treating her like she was important. This was not what Marcus had wanted at all. This is all very interesting, Marcus said loudly, but we should probably get back to celebrating my birthday. The waitress has served her purpose. James Chen turned to look at Marcus with an expression that was polite but cool. Actually, Mr. Thornfield, I think your waitress has served a much more important purpose than you realize. The conductor looked back at Maya with serious intensity. I have been searching for a pianist for an upcoming project. I need someone with exceptional technical ability and deep musical understanding. Based on what I heard tonight, I believe you might be exactly what I've been looking for. Maya felt dizzy. A famous conductor was talking to her about a musical project? This had to be some kind of mistake or misunderstanding. I don't understand, Maya said. I'm just a waitress. I haven't performed professionally in years. Talent, like yours, does not disappear just because circumstances force you to set it aside. James Chen said kindly. The way you played tonight showed me that you are still very much a musician, regardless of what job you do to pay your bills. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small white card. I would like you to audition for me next week. I am preparing for a concert tour that will visit 12 cities across Europe and Asia. I need a pianist who can handle the most challenging repertoire. Maya stared at the business card like it was something from another planet. A concert tour? Europe and Asia? It sounded like a dream that was too impossible to be real. Marcus and his friends were watching this conversation with growing amazement. Their cruel birthday entertainment had somehow turned into a life-changing opportunity for the woman they had planned to humiliate. Maya started to speak, then stopped. She did not know what to say. Part of her wanted to grab the card and say yes immediately, but another part of her remembered Carlos at home. and the medical bills and the reality of her life. Take the card, James Chen said gently. Think about it tonight. Call me tomorrow if you're interested in the audition. Maya took the business card with trembling fingers. It was heavy paper with elegant printing that said James Chen Conductor, followed by phone numbers and email addresses. But I should warn you, James Chen continued with a small smile. The audition will be quite difficult. You'll need to prepare 3 major concertos and demonstrate that you can perform at the international level. Maya looked up at him with determination in her eyes. What concertos would you like me to prepare? James Chen's smile grew wider. I think we'll start with the Rachmaninoff you just played. You clearly know it well. Maya held James Chen's business card in her hands like it was made of gold. She could not believe that a world-famous conductor wanted her to audition for a concert tour. After 6 years of believing her musical dreams were dead, suddenly everything seemed possible again. The private dining room had been transformed. What started as Marcus's cruel birthday party had become something completely different. The wealthy guests who had planned to laugh at Maya were now looking at her with respect and amazement. James Chen turned to address the entire room. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just witnessed something quite rare. This young woman has extraordinary talent that deserves to be shared with the world. The woman with diamonds nodded enthusiastically. I had no idea. When she started playing, I thought it was going to be embarrassing. But that was incredible. I've been to dozens of concerts at the symphony, added the gray-haired man. I've never heard anyone play Rachmaninoff better than that. She made it sound effortless. Maya felt overwhelmed by the sudden change in how these people were treating her. 20 minutes ago, they had been making cruel jokes about her cheap shoes and lack of education. Now they were praising her musical abilities and treating her like an artist. But Marcus was not happy about this transformation. His birthday party was supposed to be about him, and now everyone was paying attention to his waitress instead. He had wanted to embarrass Maya, but instead she had become the star of the evening. This is ridiculous, Marcus said loudly, trying to regain control of the situation. She's just a waitress who happens to know one piece of music. Don't get carried away by some lucky performance. James Chen looked at Marcus with disapproval. Mr. Thornfield, I have been working with professional musicians for over 30 years. I know exceptional talent when I hear it. What this young woman demonstrated tonight was far more than luck. Besides, added David Harrison, the man who had invited James Chen to the party, the way you treated her earlier was completely inappropriate. You should be apologizing, not trying to diminish her accomplishment. Several other guests murmured their agreement. They were beginning to realize how cruel their behavior had been, and they felt ashamed of themselves for participating in Marcus's mean-spirited game. Marcus felt his anger growing. These were supposed to be his friends, and they were taking the side of a waitress over him. I paid for this party, he said defensively. I'm the customer here. She's just an employee who should be grateful for the opportunity to perform. Grateful? Repeated James Chen with cold disbelief. Mr. Thornfield, you forced this young woman to play piano against her will, expecting her to embarrass herself for your entertainment. There is nothing grateful about that situation. Maya found her voice again. The conductor's support had given her confidence to speak up for herself. You're right, she said, looking directly at Marcus. I'm not grateful for the way you treated me tonight. Marcus's face turned red with anger. He was not used to being challenged by people he considered beneath him. You work for this restaurant, he said harshly. I'm a valued customer. You should show me some respect. Respect is something you earn, Maya replied calmly. And you haven't earned mine. The other guests watched this confrontation with growing discomfort. They could see that Marcus was making himself look worse with every word he spoke. James Chen stepped closer to Maya, showing his support. This young woman has demonstrated grace under pressure and extraordinary musical ability. She deserves our respect and admiration, not our cruelty. That's right, agreed the woman with diamonds. Marcus, your behavior tonight has been completely unacceptable. I'm embarrassed to have been part of it. One by one, Marcus's other guests began to distance themselves from his actions. They expressed their admiration for Maya's performance and their disappointment with how the evening had started. "I feel terrible about what we put you through," said the gray-haired man. "We should have stopped Marcus from forcing you to play in the first place." Maya felt a sense of justice and vindication that she had not experienced in years. These wealthy people who had looked down on her were now acknowledging her worth and criticizing Marcus's behavior. But the evening was not over yet. Marcus was becoming more desperate and angry as he realized that his guests were turning against him. "Fine," he said loudly. "If you all think she's so wonderful, maybe you'd like to explain to the restaurant manager why his waitress is wasting time playing piano instead of doing her job." Marcus pulled out his phone and started to dial. "I'm calling the manager right now. We'll see how wonderful she is when she's looking for a new job." Maya felt a moment of panic. She still needed this job to pay for Carlos's medicine and their rent. Even if she got the audition with James Chen, that did not guarantee anything. She could not afford to lose her income. But before Marcus could complete his call, James Chen gently took the phone from his hands. "Mr. Thornfield, I don't think you want to make that call." "Give me back my phone," Marcus demanded. "You have no right to interfere with my business." James Chen held the phone calmly. "Actually, I think you should know something. I have been recording our conversation for the past 10 minutes. He showed Marcus a small recording device. "Everything you've said and done tonight is documented." Marcus looked confused and worried. "What are you talking about? Why are you recording?" "Because I suspected you might try to retaliate against this young woman after your plan backfired," James Chen explained. "I wanted to make sure there was evidence of your behavior if you tried to cause trouble for her." The conductor looked around the room at the other guests. "I imagine several of you also recorded parts of tonight's events on your phones. The video of Maya's beautiful performance, and also the video of how Mr. Thornfield treated her before she played." Several guests nodded and held up their phones. They had recorded Maya's piano performance because it was so amazing, but they had also captured Marcus's cruel behavior at the beginning of the evening. "So here's what's going to happen," James Chen continued. "You're going to put away your phone and forget about calling anyone's manager, and you're going to treat this talented young woman with the respect she deserves." Marcus realized he was trapped. If he caused more trouble for Maya, the recordings would show everyone exactly what kind of person he was. His reputation could be ruined if the videos were shared on social media or with the press. "Furthermore," James Chen added, "I think it would be appropriate for you to apologize to Maya for your behavior tonight." Marcus looked around the room and saw that all his guests were watching him expectantly. They wanted to see if he would do the right thing, or continue to make himself look worse. Marcus started, then stopped. He had never apologized to a service worker in his life, but he could see that his reputation and relationships were at stake. "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly, not looking directly at Maya. "My behavior tonight was inappropriate." Maya looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you," she said simply. She did not need a long apology or dramatic gestures. She just needed him to acknowledge that he had been wrong. James Chen handed Marcus back his phone. "I'm glad we could resolve this like civilized adults." The tension in the room began to fade. Maya looked down at the conductor's business card again and felt hope growing in her heart. Tomorrow she would call about the audition. Tomorrow she would begin working toward her dreams again. But first, she had something important to do. Maya walked over to the piano and played a few soft notes just for herself. The music reminded her that no matter what happened with the audition, she was still a musician. That was something no one could take away from her again. Maya looked around the private dining room one last time. The beautiful piano that had been her secret companion for so many late nights would no longer be her only audience. James Chen's business card felt warm in her hand, like a key to a door she had thought was locked forever. "I need to go," Maya said quietly to the room. She untied her black apron and folded it carefully. After 3 years of wearing it every day, taking it off felt like removing a costume she had been forced to wear. "Wait," called out the woman with diamonds. She stood up and walked over to Maya. "I want to give you something." She opened her expensive purse and pulled out several $100 bills. "This is for your performance tonight. You gave us something beautiful that we didn't deserve." The other guests began to follow her example. They each gave Maya generous tips, far more than she had ever received in a single evening. Even David Harrison, who had been embarrassed by his friend Marcus's behavior, handed her money along with an apology. "Please use this to help prepare for your audition," said the gray-haired man. "You have a gift that should be shared with the world." Maya felt tears in her eyes as she accepted their contributions. These were the same people who had laughed at her cheap shoes and expected her to embarrass herself. Now they were supporting her dreams and treating her with kindness. Marcus sat quietly at his table, looking defeated and ashamed. His birthday party would be remembered, but not in the way he had intended. Instead of being a night where he showed his power over others, it had become a night where his cruelty was exposed and a talented young woman was discovered. Maya walked over to the restaurant manager, who had been watching the evening's events with amazement. "Mr. Peterson," she said politely, "I need to give you my notice. I won't be coming back to work here." Mr. Peterson nodded understandingly. He had heard enough of the conversation to know that Maya had been offered an incredible opportunity. "I understand completely, Maya. You've been one of our best employees, but this is your chance to follow your dreams. I wish you all the luck in the world." Maya thanked him and said goodbye to the other restaurant staff. Jessica, the young waitress who had complained about everything, looked at her with new respect. "I can't believe you could play piano like that," Jessica said. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" "Sometimes we keep our dreams private until we're ready to share them," Maya replied with a smile. Maya left the Golden Oak restaurant and walked out into the cool night air. She pulled out her phone and called Carlos to tell him she was coming home. She had so much to explain to him about what had happened. The next morning, Maya called James Chen's office. His assistant scheduled an audition for the following week. Maya had 7 days to prepare 3 complete piano concertos and prove that she was ready to perform at the international level. She spent every day practicing at the local music school, where her old professor Elizabeth Martinez let her use the practice rooms for free. Professor Martinez was amazed to hear about Maya's encounter with James Chen and offered to help her prepare for the audition. "I always knew you would find your way back to music," Professor Martinez said. "Talent like yours doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right moment to emerge." The audition was the most challenging musical experience of Maya's life. James Chen listened carefully as she played Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto, Mozart's 23rd, and Beethoven's Emperor Concerto. He asked her to sight-read difficult pieces and test her ability to work with an orchestra. When she finished, James Chen smiled and offered her the position immediately. "You will be the featured soloist for our 12-city tour," he said. "We begin rehearsals next month." The tour was everything Maya had dreamed of and more. She performed in concert halls across Europe and Asia, playing for audiences who appreciated her talent and artistry. The critics praised her technical skill and emotional depth. Music magazines wrote articles about her remarkable story and her rise from waitress to international performer. The money from the tour was enough to pay for Carlos's medical treatments and give him the best care available. Maya also set up a fund to help other young musicians who had to abandon their studies due to financial hardship. 6 months after that night at the Golden Oak restaurant, Maya was preparing for a performance at Carnegie Hall in New York City. As she sat at the piano on stage, looking out at the elegant audience, she thought about how much her life had changed. In the front row, she could see Carlos in his best suit, smiling proudly at his sister. Next to him sat Professor Martinez and several of Maya's old classmates who had come to support her. Even some of the restaurant staff from the Golden Oak were in the audience. But the most satisfying moment came when Maya spotted Marcus Thornfield in one of the back rows. He had bought a ticket to hear her perform, probably out of curiosity about what had happened to the waitress he had tried to humiliate. Maya played Rachmaninoff's Second Piano Concerto that night, the same piece that had changed her life. As the beautiful music filled Carnegie Hall, she thought about how one moment of cruelty had accidentally opened the door to her dreams. The audience gave her a standing ovation that lasted for several minutes. People threw flowers onto the stage and called for multiple encores. Maya had never felt so fulfilled and happy in her life. After the concert, a journalist asked Maya about her unusual path to success. "What would you say to people who try to hold others back or make them feel small?" the reporter wondered. Maya thought carefully before answering. "I would say that talent and dignity will always find a way to shine through, no matter how much some people try to dim them. The most important thing is to never give up on who you really are, even when circumstances force you to hide it for a while." She looked out at the crowd of people celebrating her performance. And sometimes the people who try to hurt us end up giving us exactly what we need to succeed. They just don't realize it at the time. Maya kept James Chen's business card in her wallet, even though she no longer needed it to remember his phone number. It reminded her that dreams can come true in the most unexpected ways, and that one perfect moment can change everything. Years later, when young musicians asked her for advice, Maya would tell them about the night when cruelty accidentally became kindness, when humiliation became triumph, and when a waitress became a concert pianist. She would tell them that music has the power to transform not just the people who hear it, but also the people who create it. And sometimes, late at night in her beautiful apartment overlooking the city, Maya would sit at her own piano and play, softly, remembering the scared young woman who had once served tables and dreamed of something more. That woman's courage had led to this life of music and success. The most beautiful music, Maya had learned, often comes from the deepest struggles. And the greatest triumphs happen when we find the strength to show the world who we really are, regardless of how others try to define us.